If your idea of a perfect summer includes quiet mornings, some bird songs, and a book that feels like a memory rather than a story, this video is a love letter to you. Today we're talking about books that slow time down a little. The kind you read barefoot, maybe next to a window, and definitely without your phone. These are the books to romanticize your summer with. Not in a main character kind of way, but rather in quiet moments. A long walk during golden hour, sitting in a cafe pretending you're too immersed in your book to notice that the barista is looking at you. I'm sharing 5 books that make me feel more alive, more in love with the language, and sometimes just a little undone. So whether you're reading poolside, seaside, bedside, there's something here for you. Without further ado, let's begin. So if you have been craving poetic prose, emotional depth, and that type of writing that just lingers in you, then I think we should begin with Patti Smith. The kind of book that you want to keep in your coat pocket or your bedside table, just to open at random when the world gets too loud. For me, this book reads like a prayer, and not in a religious way, but in this talismanic way that Patti Smith herself talks about. This isn't a book you read for the plot. It's a collection of memories and memories from Patti's early life. It's full of cracked bat wings, blood red stones, listless cafes, and uncanny memories, like her sister's illness or a dog's unexplained death. It's fleeting, intimate, and yet it never feels indulgent in any kind of way. Even in its most abstract moments, there's a strange comfort in her way of writing down all of her most precious perceptions. She has this ability to drift in between the sacred and the mundane, and of course it's Patti Smith. Her prose has this ambiguity to it, or at least I think of it that way. It's rough around the edges, but it's incredibly precise in the way it tugs at your emotions. Her words do not just describe the magic, they create it. She has this almost plague-like sensibility, which totally makes sense if you know that right this moment she's deep diving into William Blake's works on her Substack and dragging a good chunk of us with her. Reading Woolgathering reminded me of those childhood moments that felt strange and endless and beautiful, like sitting by a rainy window and making up stories and eating berries and reading my book. And honestly, that kind of wonder is hard to come by now, and for me that's the definition of summer. You rediscover your childhood self, you explore, you lose yourself and immerse yourself in the nature of things, and that's beautiful. And if a book can bring me this feeling, I'll cherish this book forever. And Woolgathering by Patti Smith is one of those books. If you liked devotion and you're tired of hearing of just kids, you will love Woolgathering by Patti Smith. This next book leans fully into longing. Still poetic, but with salt on the wind and heat in the air. So let's talk about The Thirst for Salt by Madeleine. A debut novel that feels like sun-bleached memory you can't quite trust but still return to. The story is told by a narrator in her 30s, looking back on the relationship she had when she was just 24 years old with a much older man named Jude. He's 42, mysterious in that ex-boyfriend who sells second-hand books kind of way, if you know what I mean. They meet while she's vacationing with her mom in a coastal town in Australia, and when she sees him, you just know that things are about to go spiral. One thing I loved, is that the narrator remains nameless. Not in a gimmick kind of way, but in a way that just makes sense. She's someone who's trying to anchor herself inside other people, unsure of who she is and what she wants in life, completely lost. And she doesn't really recognize herself without certain relationships, and she completely disappears in those relationships, trying to find herself in them. The feeling of not belonging anywhere whatsoever It lingers throughout the whole book. The prose is some of the most lyrical and delicate writing I have read in a while. Think Sally Rooney if she had grown up near the beach or on the coast of Australia. It's less about what happens and more of how it is told, how it is presented to you, how nostalgia softens even the worst parts, how we romanticize the mess just to make it bearable. But this book is not just about romantic love. The mother and daughter relationship in this book, phenomenal, superb actually, subtle yet so emotionally layered. Honestly, those parts hit home and harder than I expected. Maybe it's just a thing where you get older and suddenly you're like, oh, this is where it all began. Also, the water metaphors, so good. The ocean is basically part of the plot, a character in of itself. The tide pulls people together, pushes them apart. Everything is shifting, dissolving, reforming, which is basically what it feels like when you're in your 20s, right? If you liked acts of desperation or just anything that makes you feel slightly wrecked but in a gentle way, this book is definitely for you. And if you are in a summer mood but want something more introspective than just your typical girl goes to Italy and falls in love with a hot white man, this is it. And speaking of longing, let's take a quick detour and speak of the life of a woman who literally walks off the stage mid her own performance. Because sometimes the only romantic thing you can do is just disappear. The next book I'm going to talk about, August Blue by Deborah Levy. It opens with Elsa M. Anderson, a child prodigy turned world-class pianist, walking off stage mid-performance in Vienna. No big scandal, no meltdown, just leaves. And from there she starts drifting through Europe. Paris, London, Athens, Sardinia, quietly unraveling and quietly showing herself to a reader. There's this surreal moment early on in the novel in a flea market in Greece where Elsa notices a woman who looks exactly like her, a doppelganger. The woman disappears but leaves behind a hat, and Elsa of course has to get it and put it on. It's strange, a little eerie, but it also kicks off this thread of identity, mirrors, and missing pieces, and the quiet ache of wanting to understand who you truly are through other people, through other people's possessions, and through relationships. And that's what this book explores, essentially. The memory, the identity, and the performance that we put on in our day-to-day lives. Elsa dyes her hair blue, starts to give piano lessons to disinterested teenagers who scroll on TikTok rather than read books, and tries to figure out who she is outside of applause, constant performance that she has experienced on stage during years and years. Her whole life has been about music being an extraordinary, a miracle, and now she's just in this limbo trying to understand what's left of her, what she's left with. The writing is dreamy, introspective, loaded with metaphors. The blue of her hair, the horses, the masks, because there's COVID-19 happening, the woman who follows her, they all mean something, or maybe everything. Levy never spells it out for you, and this is what I actually love about her writing style. It feels like you're reading in the negative space, if I can put it like that. It's not fast-paced at all. You're not here for the plot twists. It reads like a black and white French film filmed in the 60s, if you know what I mean. Masculin, féminin, the films of Godard. This is what it basically makes me think of. This isn't a beach read in the traditional sense, but it's perfect to romanticize your summer in that introspective, slow, long train ride type of way. Highly recommend, especially if you are in a reflective mood those days and if you have ever dyed your hair during that quarter life crisis. No judgment. After summer of disintegrating love affairs and poetic reflection, we move into something darker. Not in tone, but in the atmosphere itself. Think overgrown gardens, tightly shut windows, and a woman remembering more than she says. The Safekeep. This book is literally an equivalent of finding an old photograph of yours and realizing that the edges have blurred out, but the feeling it captured remains. Safekeep is a story about secrets, not the dramatic plot twist kind of way, but those quiet ones that we guard and keep to ourselves. The ones that sit between people, unspoken of, felt nonetheless. It's set in post-war Netherlands. Isabel, who's the main character, finds herself drawn in a very strange way to a woman that suddenly enters her life. There's something hypnotic about the way this novel unfolds. The prose is almost too calm. I think I could compare it to the surface of a lake that seems to be quiet, and you notice that something dark is moving underneath. The atmosphere is quite unsettling and disturbing. Honestly, reminded me of The Belger by Sylvia Plath. This story is about the passion of two women, desire and memory, and how much we choose to remember or forget. If you liked the atmosphere of The Secret History by Donna Tartt, for example, I would highly recommend this book to you. After all the love and longing and reflection, I wanted to leave you with something simple. Something that just says, pay attention. Mary Oliver does it better than anyone I know. And I'm of course talking about her poetry collection, Devotions, that I have right here. Devotions is a collection of her poems that she wrote during her lifetime. It's not trying to be edgy or overly eloquent or intellectual. It's just sincere, which feels radical in its own way, especially now, our age of technology and social media. Everything, including poetry, seems to be branded as either tragic or marketable. What I love about this poetry collection is that it doesn't seem to be demanding anything from you. It's not trying to convince you that it's profound, and it's in its simplicity and sharpness of the word that Mary Oliver finds the spirit of nature around us and of the natural world that offers itself to us. This book just simply invites you to slow down, look around, and maybe, just maybe, find something sacred in the mundane. There's a line that goes, attention is the beginning of devotion. And honestly, that feels like the thesis of this whole poetry collection. Attention to the natural world, as I said, to your inner world and to the fleeting moments that pass before we even start to notice them. If you're someone who underlines or highlights sentences in a book, as I do, just to sit with them and imprint them in your brain, this is your book. I underlined the hell out of that book. I especially loved reading it during the mornings because it just gave me hope, and I just had more reasons to start my day, to observe the world around me, to go outside. So this book really holds a special place in my heart, and it is a perfect summer read, especially if you are reading it under a tree and in the nature. If you feel overstimulated by the world lately, Devotions is like walking into a quiet room and remembering that everything is fleeting, everything changes, and change is completely normal, and you should not be afraid of it. And in the end, all of your worries are nothing but a period in life that will soon pass. And I also feel like it's a book you return to and not just read in one sitting. A book that I'll be reading when I'm 20, 30, and I'll gift it to my kids one day, I hope. So that was the stack. 5 books that in very different ways reminded me how beautiful it is actually to feel deeply, even if it's messy or fleeting. If you've made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you so much. And let me know in the comments what books have been romanticizing your summer lately. What's been sitting in your tote bag, sun damaged, possibly covered in sand, or maybe in spots of coffee. And if you enjoy this, maybe subscribe. No pressure, but it will be nice to keep reading together. I had a fun time. I had a very good chat with you. I enjoyed your company. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I wish you all the best, and bye.